Rubens, The Three Graces, 1630 to 35. Peter Paul Rubens was an internationally renowned Flemish painter of the 17th century Baroque style with a very successful career. He had one of the largest workshops of his era, something like a Rubens Incorporated, and he is one of the few painters who both enjoyed great renown in his own lifetime and, for the nearly 4 centuries since his death, always maintained fervent admirers in the art world. He is known for his coloristic approach to painting, which means that forms were largely built up through color with the application of paint and vigorous brushwork. The opposite approach to painting, focusing on design, would involve laying down a carefully constructed drawing and meticulously filling in that area with color. Rubens's colors are often lusciously harmonious, with a resplendent realism, but brilliant, luminous color can actually be achieved through both the coloristic and design-based approach. What is typically more inherent to painting styles that build up the work more spontaneously with paint on the brush is a sense of energy in the visible brushstrokes and unblended areas of color that enliven the surface of the picture. Movement and drama are key features of Rubens's work. The three Graces are minor goddesses of ancient Greco-Roman mythology that personify grace and beauty. Daughters of Zeus in the original Greek myths, they are the attendants of Aphrodite, the goddess of love, sexuality, and beauty. Artists of antiquity developed a pictorial convention for showing the three Graces standing side by side, nude, with their arms interlaced and the middle Grace facing the opposite direction as the other two. So when viewing them, you'd either see two from behind and one from the front, or one from behind and two from the front. When the artists of the Italian Renaissance discovered and heightened their interest in antiquity, this particular motif of the three Graces was revived in art, and we see beautiful examples by artists such as Raphael. As the embodiment of female charm and beauty, they were depicted by artists in a form that reflected the ideals of that time and place. For Rubens, who painted this work in Flanders around 1630 to 35, this meant that the women were fair of complexion and that their bodies were soft, fleshy, and full. His graces seemed to converse more with each other and form something more of a little circle than a row of lined-up figures. Accordingly, the two women on the sides appear turned in rather than out, and they are so turned in that the three-quarter view of their bodies nearly approaches a profile view. Rubens's preferred type of women has been so well known that, in recent times, to say a woman has a Rubenesque figure is to say that she is plump and fleshy in a voluptuous way. In countless paintings, Rubens draws attention to the non-athletic fleshiness of his female nudes by including such details as dimples around knees, thighs, and buttocks, as well as elbows and fingers, rolls and folds of skin around the torso, rounded buttocks and bellies, cushiony breasts, and other areas of soft, loose skin. You'll notice that the backwards-facing Grace grips the arm of her sister, causing the squishy skin to ripple, thus drawing our attention to the tactile qualities of the supple flesh. Rubens's love for malleable female flesh is perfectly suited to his painting style, which is characterized by loose, lively brushwork. In fact, this is a relatively still composition for Rubens, and the pulsating qualities of the flesh often mirror the energetic movement of the figures in the composition. At over 7 feet in height, this work is quite large, suggesting that it would be an expensive commission. However, the painting was in the artist's personal collection at the time of his death in 1642, at the age of 62. At that time, it was purchased by the King of Spain, and hence it is housed in the Prado Museum in Madrid today. Rubens represents presented this and closely related themes such as Paris's judgment of the three goddesses several times. Mythological subjects could provide a pretext for painting the female nude, but Rubens famously painted his second young wife, Helena Formant, with bare breasts and a fur wrap. In the depiction of the three Graces, the female nudes fondle a transparent wrap, but otherwise have no covers, and the mons veneris is fully visible, although the thighs mostly conceal the labia. Full frontal nudity, male or female, was rare in most of post-classical Western art before more contemporary times, although across the centuries and across the various locations of Europe, it was more permissible in certain contexts than others. In mythological paintings that feature both men and women, you can see that Rubens sometimes employs an ancient convention of depicting the women with a creamier complexion and men, who were also more muscular than fleshy, with ruddier tones. In either instance, the skin looks palpable and radiant. The gray-blue of shadowed areas prevents the skin from having a dull, muddied quality, and his almost patchy application of rosy glazes with his virtuoso brush perfectly evokes flushed skin. The Graces, though representing Rubens's ideal of erotic beauty, lack the idealizing purity of Raphael's carefully drawn rendering of the same subject. Instead of Raphael's simple elegance of line and pose, they have an almost awkward realism, and there is a legitimate question as to whether we are looking at goddesses or at a trio of plump Flemish maidens. Their beauty is immediate and accessible, not lofty and pristine, and they seem more likely to down a beer in the local tavern than sip the nectar of Mount Olympus. The lesbian undertones of the enlaced women nonetheless were designed to primarily serve the male fantasy of the painter and his patrons. The delectation in female forms and flesh would gain nothing from the inclusion of the painter's own sex in this artwork, and the sensual caresses, intimate glances, and corporeal proximity of the women perfectly serve the purpose of an alluring erotic subtext, inviting the viewer to partake. For these reasons, this is just the type of artwork that certain feminist groups of the late 20th century, like the Guerrilla Girls, would have excoriated. On the other hand, both men and women may find sensual stimulation in viewing the work, even as their desires vary with their proclivities. And a gloss of female empowerment and sisterhood is hardly out of the question, especially in the liberating representation of these women's bodies. Some may completely forget for a moment the subject at all, as they get lost in Rubens's brilliant colors and lively brushwork. As with almost any good work of art, the painting stands on its own, leaving you to get out of it what you will.